we sit next to each other talking?
Yeah, I think we should we can kind of talk to both. I think just having natural conversations.
Okay.
Yeah. And this is still loading, so hopefully this works.
All right, we're live on YouTube.
Yep. Live on Facebook.
Nice.
Cool. All right, hey guys, what's up? It's Dean. So I'm in the office of Garrett. Garrett, I don't know your last name.
Saltpeter.
Saltpeter.
There aren't many of us out
I
there.
had no clue that was your last name. All right, so Garrett runs this incredible company called NeuFit, and I've been able to use this technology a few times over the past 3 years. I think our first time was maybe 2014 or 2015.
At the Bulletproof Conference, right?
Yep.
We met, we're near each other here in Austin, but we met out in California.
Yeah, and no one was doing it, so I was like, what is this? Show me. And I don't want to try to explain it because I'll butcher it, so I'll just kind of turn it over to Garrett now.
So what we have here is a unique system that combines a type of electrical stimulation, a new type of electrical stimulation with different movements and exercises. So the device that we have here is it's a step forward within the world of electrical stimulation. So electrical stimulation has been around for a long time. A lot of people might be familiar with Russian stim or TENS units or interferential.
I've talked about a Mark Pro on here a couple times.
Mark Pro falls in that same category. So virtually all of those devices are alternating current, and they do something. Obviously, you feel them, they activate your muscles, they get blood and lymph and other fluids moving. So there's some benefit, but there's also a low ceiling on what you can do because there are some downsides. Alternating current devices, because the signal goes back and forth, they cause muscles on both sides of your joints to co-contract and fight against each other. And the issue with that is that you end up instilling movement patterns that waste energy. When you have that type of tension, it's like driving a car, hitting the throttle and the brake pedal at the same time. You'd be wasting a lot of energy overcoming the brakes, right?
Sure.
And then also, when muscles are contracting, you're training them to shorten, you're reducing their ability to lengthen, to absorb force, to cushion the landing phase of movement, and really instilling movement patterns that can actually lead to a greater risk of injury. And so in contrast to that, our device is preferentially able to lengthen muscles or allow them to eccentrically elongate. Mm-hmm. And then we're working within a different paradigm here. We're going to be able to do a couple of things where we're sending preferentially more sensory signals, sensory inputs into the body, as opposed to just a motor signal that's causing the contraction. We're able to send sensory signals. So when we work with Dean here, we're going to be able to send in these signals that allow us to do things to repattern how his nervous system is working to control movement, change patterns of muscle activation, and do things that you just can't normally do with traditional devices.
So summary, I'm like the non-science guy.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I love that it works, but I try to get to the summary. So from my understanding is this is better than traditional electrical stimulation because it helps you work on strength in range of motion. Mm-hmm. So there's more of a more mobility component to it. Mm-hmm. And then secondly, when you're hooked up to this unit, you're doing things that you could never do without it. It's allowing your brain to develop new, what's called neural pathways from one part of your body to the brain to allow you to control that muscle and control your body in a way that you would not have understood if you didn't have the unit attached.
Right.
Cool.
Right. And then at a high level too in that, so sorry if I went a little too neurological right off the bat.
Oh yeah, that's good.
The other thing it allows us to do is this diagnostic process where if someone has, if he has a shoulder injury, a lot of times people are going to treat the shoulder and focus a lot of effort there. What we're going to be able to do is find where the underlying problem is really coming from. So we're going to do this diagnostic process where we scan around on his body, and we'll be able to find, usually precisely and accurately, exactly where the underlying dysfunction is that's allowing him to become compromised in that shoulder in the first place.
Cool. So in the past I've come here and we've done a lot of kind of full body stuff. We've noticed that I have some hip imbalances in my right side, which is normal because I've had knee injuries, which means that I'm going to compensate for those by using my left hip more. So we've connected and hooked me up to, I think we worked on glute med, we worked on TFL last time I was in here. This time I've had my shoulder's been bugging me. I've been doing a lot of, you guys probably know this, I've been doing a ton of scapular stability work over the past year. So I've been using stuff like resistance bands and TheraBands and a lot of prone scapular stability exercises. shown here on my website and on social media. But I overdid it a couple weeks ago, and I think I rolled too much. So I was planning a new workout series, and I was rehearsing them, and I was kind of sick, so my muscles were weaker than they were used to, and I ended up just foam rolling too much, and I think I overdid it on something in my rotator cuff. Okay. And so I had that familiar pain of, not wanting to lift my arms overhead, not wanting to do any sort of pushing without sharp pain in the shoulder. And so I've been doing my, my external rotation drills and my internal rotation and those with the resistance band, but I'm still feeling some impingement, or I don't know if it's impingement, but it's just weakness in my left rotator cuff, particularly with internal rotation. Okay. So
is that painful at all when you reach back like that?
It can be. I can do this okay, but when I start to reach away and try to keep my shoulder blade, actually retracted, then we start to have some popping and clicking in there.
Okay.
So,
is there any like if you're doing a push-up or any plank style yoga poses or anything like that, are there any pain or limitation in that?
Yeah, when I'm doing any sort of plank or push-up, if I'm not really careful about keeping my shoulder blades together, I'll feel some pain kind of in my anterior deltoid or around that area.
Can you try a couple just so we can get a sense of where things are right now?
Sure. That was my right elbow, that's fine.
So how's that shoulder feeling? Any pain on that, or feeling pretty good right now?
No, it's feeling pretty good. Maybe a little fatigue.
Does the left feel any different from the right?
Not much, maybe a little bit more fatigue in that area, but...
Okay. What about anything like up overhead, is that?
No, nothing up overhead. I turned off cellular. Alright. No, nothing overhead, no pain here. I was working on internal rotation yesterday, so what I was doing was reaching back like this, and just trying to push my hand away from me while keeping the shoulder blade together, and that got really tiring here, somewhere in here.
Okay.
My left side, but on my right side, I was able to do that really without any fatigue.
Okay.
Like it felt pretty solid.
Okay.
And it felt like just really fatigued.
Okay. So the good news, is that you don't have much pain. You're pretty healthy. Obviously, you're taking care of yourself. You're smart about it. You're doing a lot of the right things.
Yeah. I stopped doing pushing. So I stopped doing all pushing for about a week, and I didn't really do any overhead stuff. So I gave it a lot of rest time.
Okay. So that what you're feeling there, that fatigue and that little bit of a strain when you get into that position, how I would suggest that we think about that is to say that there's probably something not working properly in the shoulder. That shoulder joint is compromised, and that could lead to injury, aggravation, irritation of the rotator cuff tendons, the ligaments, the joint capsule, labrum, connective tissue. Could definitely lead to that damage. Thankfully, it seems like your body is compensating by kicking in other muscles to hold on so that you don't injure your shoulder, and that's why you fatigue faster there, because you're having to fight to overcome that extra resistance, and why it feels a little tighter in that position, because as those muscles are holding on, you're having to overcome that resistance to get back there, and they can tug on some things that do get tender. And so what we want to do is go upstream, find out what isn't working properly in the first place that's causing that protective compensatory tightness. And by working upstream, usually the things that are excessively tight can relax and feel better, right away. Whereas normally people think, oh, my shoulder feels tight, I need to roll it out or massage it, and that can help. But often it also happens that you'll massage or loosen up temporarily whatever is tight, because there's still a reason that it's tight. It's going to tighten back up again, and it's tough to really accumulate forward progress.
You're just treating the symptom. You're not treating the root cause.
Exactly. And so what we want to try and do, at least in terms of the neuromuscular system here, is try to get closer to that root cause.
Okay, cool. Would that involve? So I know that. So if you have issues in your left shoulder that could be caused by hip tightness in your right hip, or your body kind of works in an X. So would we look at my right hip in this case, or would we mostly be looking at the shoulder, do you think?
So we absolutely, if we're going to do a full process here, depending on how much time we have, I would like to do a full evaluation where we do muscle tests of all the major muscles of your body, not just upper body, but lower body also, and then do the diagnostic scan on the whole body. many times as we're scanning, emanating around the shoulder, we find enough around there to go on, and that ends up being enough.
Cool.
And we may not have to go any further. However, that sometimes we find that we do have to go down opposite shoulder. So sometimes it's those biomechanical cross-body patterns. Sometimes it's something on the same side of the body, and it has to do more with patterns of brain activity. So if it's a more biomechanical thing, it'll tend to be cross-body. If it's a more neurological, it'll tend to be same side of the body. So there's a few other layers of that are interesting and can be helpful, particularly if the stuff that works for most people isn't working and we're kind of hitting a wall. Then it becomes very important to start to think, well, what else could it be? And those are certainly some of the things.
Cool. Ready?
Shall we do it?
Yes.
All right. So for the muscle test that we're going to do first, I'm going to use this dynamometer. Let me show you this real quick so everyone understands this.
Yeah.
Because the last time we worked together, I may not have even had.
No, I don't think we had this.
So let's do this. Just hold your hand here. Just push against me.
Like that.
So what we're going to do, there's no pressure here. We're going to push against each other. Push, 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 push. Ramp off. And then here, you see it ramped up, ramped down, 32 pounds of force. So we can see it shows the ramping up of the force, the ramping down of the force, and then that 32 pounds is the peak force that we got to there. And so this allows us to quantify the muscle testing process, whereas it usually is very subjective. And if you're on the table being tested, someone might say, "Oh my gosh, do you feel how much stronger you are?" And you can say, "Well, I don't know, where you're not pushing as hard," or there's a lot of ambiguity, and this can remove some of that.
All right.
So let's do this here. Let's start. Let me lie down, please. Sure. Let's go the other way there. Head that way, feet this way. I'm going to do a few tests on his right side first to get a baseline measurement, get a sense of how strong he is, and we assuming the right is healthy, get a sense of where the left should be, and then we'll test the left and see if there's any differences over there. So let's start with this test. This will be a test for the lat, one of the major muscles of the shoulder. So lock out your elbow, internally rotate, keep that shoulder blade down. I'm going to try and pull out, and you hold in towards your side here. Ready? And go. Little self-adjustment there.
Oh yeah.
So any pain on that? So I don't know if you could hear that, but we had a little click, the shoulder joint shifting. It was a self-adjustment there.
No, it didn't feel great, but
Let's try it one more time.
all right.
It should be after that initial pop. It should be
Better.
reset here.
Yeah.
Go.
Yeah, just feels
Okay.
not used to doing that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're at 35 pounds of force there.
It feels like if I push harder, like something would like snap.
Okay. So a little bit of little vulnerable there. Maybe something we want to work on the right side also.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it should feel, when everything's working well, you should almost feel nothing. It should feel effortless, should feel easy, and none of that sense of vulnerability. So maybe some more work to do here too. So 35 on the right, out to your right here. Go. Okay. 24 there. Let's try this one. You may go back towards the wall that way.
Okay.
Go. 16. I'm going to try that one more time, actually. I think you had a little more. Go. Oh, same. So we got, I'm just going to grab a little sheet of paper here so I can write these down.
Sure.
So we had 35, 24, and 16 first.
Yeah, a lot of those just felt tired or felt like
Yeah.
not used to pushing that way.
So we got some work to do, a little bit of work to do on that side too. Let's try this internal rotation here.
Well, that's gonna give a nice pop.
And go. That's actually pretty good. A lot of times people will cheat with the shoulder blade,
Oh, yeah.
anterior tilt of the scapula. You did a pretty good job there. 35 pounds. That was pretty good. Probably the best one so far. External rotation here. Go. 35 internal, 39 external. Okay, so now let's come to this side. All right, rotate in here. So So this one was 35 on the other side, internal rotation. And go. $22. Any pain on that?
Nope, not pain.
Okay. Try it again. I'll give you another chance here. Let you kind of warm up to it. We did 2 on the other side.
Yeah.
Go. Yeah, that was better. 29. So if it's improving, like the other one, the second one was the same twice in a row. This one improved. It got from 21 to 29. So I'll give you one more chance here.
All right.
And go. No, back down 25. So a little fatigue from doing it a couple times in a row.
Yeah, it felt stable though. I didn't feel like my shoulder was doing anything funky like the other one. I was like, ah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's try this one. You're going out that way.
Okay.
And go. 25. Same as the other side.
Cool.
The other side was 24 actually. So a pound higher.
Negligible.
You're going back that way.
Okay.
And go. That should be about the same as the other side. Yeah, 17 here. It was 16 there. So definitely no glaring deficits on this side. That lat was a little weaker, a few pounds weaker, but like you said, it actually felt better to you. So, and then the others are just as good as the other side. So let's try this one. This one was really good on the other side. A little less range.
Yeah.
Less range and internal rotation. So that is one sign of a potential deficit if you can't get into the range as much on this side. So this was 35 on the other side. Let's try this here. And go. Yeah. 31. So similar, but that range of motion
That
actually
range
worked
is
out.
really different.
Yeah. So you see that side by side there. How different the range is. So that tells us I'd have to call that a fail, even if the number on here was the same. We're gonna call that a fail because of the range of motion. Rotate back here. And go. And that one, 35, that's good.
Okay.
The other side was 39.
Definitely didn't feel as strong as the other side.
Yeah, so down 35, less than 39. So yeah, we can work on it, but not too far off. So let's actually prioritize those last two. That last one, because it was a small deficit, and then that second to last one, internal rotation there. Let's work on that because that was the most
bad.
glaring. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have a sense of. Let me just see. Go into that position again. Let me just see from this angle. All right. So we're right here. We're at about 30 degrees out. Don't cheat with that scapula. Okay. Yeah. So without that scapula cheating, it's like 45 degrees, about 30 degrees, between 30 and 45 degrees. Okay. So we are going to work on this here. We're going to do a little bit of activation work and have some fun here.
You can see pains of or expression of pain or grimaces of pain on my face. That's normal.
I'm going to do a little bit of work. Do a little bit of work here to get these tissues opened up. So the idea here is that there's a couple things. I like the metaphor of a kink in a garden hose. If water is flowing through a hose, everything's flowing good, you get a kink, it blocks the water. So too can you block the flow of that neurological signal. And sometimes that's literally true. There's a nerve entrapment, and so we're going to free up some of the tissues where that could be, like here where the nerve exits the spinal cord, work the tissue along the neck here. Here, he has one electrode on him, I have the other one on me, so I'm going to get some of the current in there to help more efficiently open up some of the tissues as opposed to just doing the manual work with my fingers only. Sometimes it's that simple, just getting rid of a kink in the garden hose. Sometimes it's a little more complicated than that. So if we're talking to practitioners, we'll also talk about how we're trying to balance the tone of muscles or the tension of muscles on both sides of the joint so that the joint can be in better position. Because that can be one of the reasons that muscles are weak or inhibited, is if the balance around the joint isn't optimal and the joint is pulled out of position, the body will turn off or inhibit some of the muscles around that joint, basically saying this joint is compromised, we don't want to move powerfully around this joint because there could be a risk of injury, and so the body will shut down some of the muscles as a protective mechanism. So we're working on those sorts of things here. So we're going to work some tissues literally along where the nerve paths are. Some are going to be kind of reflex or trigger point areas to help relax muscle tone. And the idea here is that we use a machine to try and help accelerate that process. And when we're working on these spots, it'll feel to you like trigger points. Just try to breathe and relax through it. If anything gets to be too much, let me know. I can always back off.
Okay.
So I can lie back down here. And I'm going to go up until first feel his muscles start to twitch. So the current is going through one electrode at his body, through my fingers to the other electrode on my arm, and I'll feel a tingle in my fingers and he'll feel something in his neck. Feel some buzz in there.
There we go, something's happening.
So it's twitching a little bit.
Yeah, got some tingling
See, can you get a close up on this here?
some tingling through my chin piece.
Yeah, so when I touch him, you'll see, if you look at his neck, it'll twitch a little bit. If we hit that spot there, it's making him, this jumps out, contracts there. So he can feel it, and it's kind of cool to see. So we're at a point on the current where it's not uncomfortable, but at least it should, I won't speak for you, but it's not uncomfortable.
No, it's not. We're not there yet.
Not uncomfortable, but it is enough to help get in there and preferentially help to start relax and lengthen out some of that tissue. That you feel both pressure and current.
Yeah.
If it either gets to be too much for you, let me know.
It just feels like it's so tight that you shouldn't even be pushing it.
We're going to spend a little time, let the current get in there. So I could spend even more time and more energy really pressing in there. It would be more uncomfortable for him. So in other words, I don't want to make you cry on Facebook Live.
No, it's okay. I've got a good pain tolerance. I had a what do you call it when you have your spine?
Spinal tap?
I had a spinal tap, and it felt like it just felt like a trigger point release for me because my lower back was so tight. I was like, ooh, that felt kind of good actually.
It's probably the first time I ever heard it described as feeling good. I'm going to go up a hair on the current again, a little more buzzing, right?
Yeah. Not jumping uncomfortably then.
We're just getting the current in all throughout. I could do this with a glove. I could do it through the electrode. I'm just doing it through my fingers now because I kind of like the feeling too. Feel the current still?
Yep. Yeah, it's referring down through my pec.
Okay. So we know that we're hitting some of the tissue here through which that nerve runs. That's why he feels it referring down there, because we're actually, some electricity is hitting that actual nerve. And that's good. So we're getting right about here at the C6 level, we're going to be hitting the nerve that runs down to the subscap, which is that muscle that internally rotates his arm, and that was the main one that we're wanting to work on.
Now it's referring through my right sternocleidomastoid mass. Or it's going in my trapper, I can't. It feels like sternocleidomastoid.
now for this, put this on you here.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to work through the pad. So now I'm actually pressing down through that pad. No wonder going through my fingers, it's just going through your body.
Yeah, it's referring everywhere. It's like in the right side of my neck, definitely the chest, and my shoulder.
So it's under spinal along like right there.
It feels okay. I mean, it just feels tight. It's not painful at all.
Any of this stuff along the clavicle?
No, it feels fine. No discomfort.
Okay. Not as big of an issue for you. While this current's on here, I'm going to go into the subscap itself. Hit a little point here. This is a fun one. If anyone's ever had this done, between the ribs and the shoulder blade, and we're hitting that subscap muscle. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. Maybe roll over, please, around face down.
Yeah, I'm thinking about subscap, but you can't really hit it with a little crossball, or you have to have.
Yeah.
Usually, you have to have someone dig in there.
And the current can get in there too, which we'll see. I imagine as we go here. Spread a little bit more here. Also, now I'm working through the pad again. How's that feel in the current? Medium.
It's definitely more tender than anything else.
Okay.
So far.
From the pressure or the current or both?
Both.
Okay.
I think. Definitely the pressure, but also the current.
Okay.
It's not bad. You can just tell that it's a problem area, I guess.
Mm.
Trying to stay relaxed.
Yeah, you're doing a great job. Just breathing through it and staying calm there. That's good. All right, so we'll get your electrodes off. And can you roll back over, please? All right, so let's revisit this here. Let's try this again. How's that feel? Looks like more range of motion to me there.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like I'm. Yeah, I can feel like I can keep it and actually push. Feels better. Still some. Now I got some clicking when I do this, but it's not related.
Let's try this one here. So, ready?
Yeah.
And go. Oh yeah, it should be. We went from 35 to 38. Thought we might have had even a little more. It was 39 over there, so we're close to our target. Gonna try it one more time.
Sure.
So it's holding for longer. Which
Yeah.
is good.
It didn't feel like it got fatigued as quickly.
And go. Yeah, 41. So we're up at 41 now. So from 35, we went up 6. 6 out of 36 would be 16 and 2/3%. 6 out of 30, so 17, 18% stronger. That's the idea. That's what we want to see. There are times when if we're working with people who come in with an acute injury or they've had chronic pain for a while, worse off than you. We'll see multiple muscles change 20, 30, 40, 50%. Or sometimes even more dramatic. So we'll see some stuff like that. For you, you're not too far off. 16, 17% in one muscle is good, and a little bit more range in the other one. It's you're not that far off, so we don't expect to see as dramatic results. But that's what we need there. More range of motion in one, more strength in the other. So now we're ready to move on to phase 2. And we're going to get on the machine here. So let me have you stand up.
Sure.
So the idea here is that we've done some work to restore neurological function to those muscles. They're better able to activate than they were before. So that's good. That's a prerequisite. If you don't do that, whatever you do, the greatest therapy in the world, whatever you do, as soon as you walk out to your car, you're going to be collapsing again into the same areas. It's going to be difficult to accumulate progress, and those issues are going to tend to linger around for longer. So doing that part first is important. Now that we know, the neurological signal can get there, the muscles can work better in the first place, now we want to see how they're working when you're actually under load. Like if you're doing a man-flu workout, or you're actually pushing yourself, when you see how, what's up to the challenge. And so for that, we're going to use the sponge here. We're going to run a diagnostic process. We're going to scan around on his body. Wherever the machine is, wherever the pad is, it's going to be sending the same signals as if that area of the body is actually moving, if it's being loaded in a workout. You should be able to move anywhere and everywhere, so you should be able to process that signal anywhere and everywhere in your body, and it should feel pleasant wherever it is. Only if you have issues in your body, in your nervous system, where you're actively or governing the output in certain areas, literally like fighting against or limiting movement, would your body fight against the signal of movement here, and it'll feel more intense. So we're going to scan around and be looking for spots where, even though this signal is the same, it jumps out and feels more intense to you. So like a hot spot type area.
Cool.
Okay. So, let me turn it face that way just for a moment, please. We're going to anchor one pad here. Anchor one pad here at the base of the spine. And let's turn it up until we get to that point where it still feels kind of pleasant. It's intense, like a 4 or a 5 out of 10. Intense enough that you can't ignore it, but still not painful or uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Feel a little buzzing yet?
I'm buzzing.
A little buzzing, so that's like a 1 out of 10.
Tingling.
Okay. How would you rate that if you had to put a number on that right there?
3.
3? Let's go up till it's 4. That's you to a 4?
Yeah.
Okay. That's a healthy searching level. Right about in the range I like to be, so we're going to be scanning around like this and looking for any spots that jump out and feel more intense to Dean. So we'll rely on him to tell you if anything feels different than this. So as I go along here, is it all kind of pleasant?
Yeah. It's all just a little tingling.
Just a little tingly. Okay. We'll come up here. So it's making him contract the muscle. Is it contraction or is it actually uncomfortable?
No, it's contraction.
Okay, so it's contracting, not a big deal. Come to the rear delt. Come into the scap here.
Yeah.
Ooh, how's that feel?
And ow. Manageable ow, but ow.
Okay, so it went from a 4 and kind of pleasant buzzing to a
Pain. Yeah.
pain.
Yeah.
So what is that? Yeah,
Like a 6 or 7.
6 or 7. Okay. Okay. So definitely more than the other places.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So that helps us know where some of these underlying issues are. Yeah, it's not on the teres, not as bad, but at infraspinatus.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the spot. So far in this whole area, that seems to be it. Let's check the tricep while we're back here.
Tingling.
Just tingling. Does it tingle like down the arm?
Tingle. Yeah. It does. Lots of tingling.
Okay. But not nearly as bad as
Not
that.
pain.
Okay.
Just tingling. Yeah.
Okay. So it's tingling, it's hitting some of the nerves, stimulating some of the nerves that go down the arm.
Yeah, I extend my fingers at the
Yeah.
end there, so.
Yeah. Okay. So let me have you turn back the other way here. And then let's continue the search on the front side. So we're gonna check on the pec. It's gonna make you contract probably.
Mm-hmm.
Is it
No
just
pain,
contraction?
just contraction. It's a very weird sensation.
Okay. Your arm bend probably right there.
Yep. Punch me in the face.
Just contraction.
And tingling. Yeah.
Let's go here. Serratus.
Woo, it's sore.
Yeah. Okay. Is that so? First, it seems like first place is back here. Is that, does that feel like second place? I mean, was that
Oh, it wasn't painful. It's just sore.
Just sore.
It wasn't painful.
like from sore already from the work you've been doing?
Probably, yeah.
Okay.
It's like my intercostal serratus anterior felt like. I guess serratus anterior. Sorry, not. Yeah, it was down here.
Okay. So we definitely had this. Let me turn back the other way, please, for a moment. So let's do this. We know most intense was definitely this spot here. So I'm going to anchor this down. So, you know, there's many theories and potential explanations for why that's more reactive. For now, I think we can all agree it was more reactive there. Your body was fighting against it more there, right? You had more of a reaction against it.
Yeah.
And so what we want to do is figure out more precisely which pathways are the most reactive. So I'm going to send in the current from different directions, and we're going to try to figure out what makes this the most intense or uncomfortable. So let's try.
So we're systematically figuring out what's the most painful thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hooray. So let's try this. I'm going to give you a choice A and a choice B. Choice A, choice B. Either one more?
Choice B was more pleasant.
B was more pleasant, so A is more uncomfortable. So that's A there.
Yeah.
So now C. It's just on the front of the pec here. Not nearly as bad, huh?
No.
Yeah, he's cool as a cucumber. You can see, if you can see his face, you can see just a mellow Dean. So definitely A so far. Let's compare A, which you remember, and now we'll go on to serratus on the ribs. So it seems visually like it's getting in a little more. So that was D. Here's A again. Is either one more uncomfortable?
The first one is A is more uncomfortable. I mean, D felt more tender, but it didn't feel like I was trying to protect it as much, if that makes sense. Like I felt more vulnerable on A.
Okay. Okay. So we'll go on A here. And if it ends up being the case that we need to work the other one, we'll work on this. We won't see as much progress as we want. We can always try the other one. But we're going to start first with what his body seems to be asking for the loudest, which is where it's the most uncomfortable. And I turn it down to about half, so you'll barely feel anything. So we have the electrodes on here. So now there's a couple things we want to do. One is we want to have you do some movements with the machine on, because we have dysfunction or some sort of deficit here. We're going to stimulate these areas, help bring them back online while you're going through some movements, which will help you learn to reincorporate these muscles into movement. So that, when people think about doing corrective exercises, to make a change, it often takes thousands and thousands of reps. With the amount of input from this machine, we can make those types of changes in dozens and dozens of reps instead of thousands and thousands. So we're going to have you do some movements. I also want to have you do specifically any movements that are bothering you or where you feel restricted, because those are movements that you'll tend to compensate around. So for you, we'll have you just reach back and do a few of those.
Yeah.
So we'll have you do.
And I'll also point out, they don't do music here. So they have like squat racks and all this tons of equipment outside. They don't use music because your philosophy is if there's music on, you can't concentrate as much.
So we like to, there at certain times of the day, we'll play music depending on who's in here, but there are definitely times when we don't. For that reason, yeah, I want people to really be able to focus on what we're doing, and sometimes that can be, a distraction, and it can change actually the parts of the nervous system that are being activated. So it depends on time of day. If we're working with some of our more elite level athletes, it becomes more important. If we're working on people who have more general goals and for whom every 100th of a second is not a life-changing thing for them, it depends on the context. So let's turn it up here to, I want you to think 7 or 8 out of 10. So it's outside your comfort zone.
Okay.
The body, you have to be uncomfortable in order to make change, right? If we're comfortable, there's no reason to invest the energy and resources to change and adapt.
Cool.
So when I go up there, so 7 or 8 out of 10, it doesn't have to be a 10. I want you to still be able to breathe through it. It's not making you panic,
Okay.
but it is still uncomfortable. And then we're going to do a few movements. We'll start with a few shoulder blade, big circles of the shoulder blades like that.
Okay.
So tell us, please, when you were at that 7 or 8 out of 10.
I've done this a lot. I can go up a lot.
That's right.
All right, let's start there.
Good. That's right. He's definitely getting higher than the average first session, in part because he's tough, in part because we have worked together before. Have we? I know we were. Have we done the upper body with you before? Or is this the first time it's been the upper body?
We've done a lot of scapular work before.
It's been a while though.
It has. It's been at least a year.
Yeah. I'm glad you're back. Sorry it's under such circumstances.
Oh no, this is great. This is exactly what I wanted. We both shop at Costco, and I was like, Garrett, you need to bring me in.
That's right.
He said, okay, fine.
Reconnected by Costco.
Reconnected through bulk grocery shopping.
Yeah. It's the best combination of bulk, value, and healthy. Right? They have good.
They have good stuff. Yeah. That was my collarbone.
I can't speak highly enough about the wild caught salmon at Costco. Oh, it's good and good value and good, healthy and delicious.
Yes.
How's that feeling? Feel like it's gotten any easier to handle there? Or still pretty intense?
It's definitely gotten easier to handle, yeah.
Let me not turn it up. Tell me that new 8 out of 10.
Keep going.
Okay.
Good. So we went from 48 to 56, which is very good, and definitely above average for a first session. And we'll see. So we went up about 8 points on the machine, and we'll see that each set, the increments, the jumps will get a little bit smaller, and we'll kind of reach a plateau there. So I want to do several sets of this, and this time we'll let's add in a movement like this as if you were doing a backstroke. So you're gonna go all the way up, full flexion.
Oh my God.
And then internally rotate, and then reach back and do shoulder extension.
Internal rotate.
Yep. Yeah, like that. Good.
Oh, it feels better than it usually does.
One more room here. Let's do one more of those right now.
Oh yeah, right here is where it's like, oh man, all from here, most sort of right here. I don't know if that helps at all, but
Okay. So we may want to come back and spend a little more time where he's mentioned that it's a little more intense in this range. Probably worth spending a little more time there.
and I'm trying to squeeze my arms back as much as possible as I'm doing this.
And then at this one, we'll have you come to here and do a few of those where you felt restricted in the beginning. And you said it was faster to fatigue.
Oh yeah, that's much better. Usually when I do this, I have to start with my hand on my back, and now I'm actually getting it away.
Good man.
And I think I'm not. Is this neutral or am I cheating a bit?
The scap is in pretty good. That's pretty good.
A little bit of
anterior tilt of the scap, but I mean it's
A little bit of clicking, a little bit of angle jointing.
is it actually uncomfortable or just clicking?
Just clicking.
Yeah. So that
Right here and up is also.
There's some fun activity.
Yeah, right there is where I usually can't do that. So I'm feeling right where the note is.
Good. That's good. So it's a good sign. If his movement is improving, we're giving him the inputs that he needs, the neurological signals that he needs in order to be able to better move. So it's not like we, stretched you and actually increased the length of the muscle or anything. We just sent you the signals that instead of protecting and not letting yourself go there, now you're allowing it to open up and allowing yourself to get there, and it's more free.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the benefits of this is that we're giving you the signals to allow you to do the movement yourself, so the benefit should last even when you get off the machine, as opposed to becoming dependent on the machine to do it for you. We're trying to give you the signals so you can learn how to do it for yourself and learn much more quickly than if you're just doing rep after rep after rep after rep.
Yeah.
Can you go up on the machine?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Keep going.
Good. Even bigger jump this time. We're at 10 points. Let's do some shoulder blade circles there. Good. And then do a few more that arm movement, but do it the other way. Start back here with extension, come around there like a butterfly swimming stroke.
Do you want me to turn out here or keep this internal rotation?
Once you get to about there, then you can start to turn the other way.
Okay.
Good, yeah. So think like carving out every last millimeter worth of range in that shoulder. So your muscles have to work the hardest at extreme range of motion. When you're as far as the joint can possibly go, you're at that extreme range of motion. So even a movement like this can be made challenging between the machine and the extra effort you're applying. So is the stickiest part, is it still up here, or is there other ranges that are?
Right where it was.
Yeah. So spend a little bit of time up there.
I wonder if I should make some circles here, or like
Yeah,
this?
do a few rotations and do a few circles. When it's more uncomfortable at different ranges of motion, it could be because it's hitting different pathways. It could also be because you don't have as good of control or stability in that position, and so you're fighting against it to protect uniquely to that position. And doing some movements, rotations, or circles, just like you're doing there, is a great strategy to give you more time, more opportunity to learn stability, learn the skill of muscular control in that position. Amplified by the machine, it'll happen that much faster. Come back and do a few more of those moves there, and then we'll dial you down.
I don't know what this is. Trying to help.
Fasten your
myself.
seatbelt.
Yeah.
There's some fun spots. For whatever reason. That.
So he's rotating his arm, rotating the shoulder joint in that position there.
All I'm doing is right here.
Let's get back there one more time.
Okay.
And then we'll dial it down here for you. All right. So it's off there. Let me grab these from you.
I'm just gonna keep them there for a couple more hours, I thought.
And then set the record for the longest Facebook Live. Is that?
There's
probably longer than that.
oh gosh, there's probably 24 hours. How
So
you doing, cat? Faceless and soundless.
try moving around to see how that feels compared to how it was, back before we started.
Yeah, before it started, it was popping every time I would do anything here, so. Definitely 2 or 3 more inches in motion.
Okay. Let's try to lie down on here and let's compare the range of motion so we can see it visually. Compared to where it was before. Yeah. That's good. We got that shoulder blade. Few more degrees there. Let's do them both side by side again. That's good. They look pretty symmetrical.
Still need to work on both sides.
Yeah, it needs to work on both sides, but the left is not lagging behind as much as it was.
Right.
And overall, it's good to feel that more greater range back there. Based on what we found, we're seeing some more strength in the external rotator muscles, and then based on what we found on the machine there, a few of those compensation patterns to work through, and it seems like we are working through them. Thankfully, you were already pretty close to where you want to be, and there's not as much room for improvement, but we got some improvement, and that's a good sense of what this process is like for sure.
Cool. Thanks, Garrett.
Thank you.
All right, if you guys watched all of that, wow.
Yeah, good stamina.
Hopefully you watched some of it and learn more about it. But NeuFit is based here in Austin, Texas, so you can check them out at new.fit, right?
Yeah, NEU, not NEW, but NEU.FIT.
That is the website. They're in Austin is their main office, but you guys have locations. Colorado, right? You're in Denver. You're in Denver?
So there's one, actually no one in the Denver area yet. We're talking to a few people.
Okay.
But there are about between 25 and 30 so far other businesses around the country using our technology, implementing the system with their own clients or patients, and definitely, we're talking to more practitioners about adding this on every day. So we'll be out there. On our website, there's a locations tab, so if you're watching this somewhere else in the United States, hopefully there'll be someone near you, and we're adding more regularly. We have our next certification course in about 3 weeks, September, towards the end of September, and so we'll be having some new practitioners coming through fairly soon.
Yeah, sweet. All right, you guys want to learn more? You know the website. Otherwise, hope you learned something about electrical stimulation today. I'll see you guys on the next one. So yeah, have a good one.
Thanks, everybody.
You have a surprisingly long